We're joined now by Mike Pompeo, the former Secretary of State under Donald Trump, former CIA director under Donald Trump, former congressman, let's see, Harvard Law grad, West Point grad, Army officer, and a future who knows what. Mr. Secretary, welcome back to Newsmax. How are you?
I'm great. How are you tonight? Thanks for having me back on the show.
You bet. Terrific. And look, you're making the rounds lately, sir. Your visibility, it almost feels like you're still the Secretary of State. I want to ask you, you got to be thinking about running for president. You should be. But can you see yourself being a candidate if Donald Trump is a candidate?
Oh, you know, goodness, I've been out visible lately because the things that we did these past 4 years were so important. The work that we did was so critical to the people of the United States of America. I want to make sure that story doesn't get lost. I want to make sure the other side doesn't get to tell the narrative. I'm going to work really hard. I've been a member of the conservative movement, a card-carrying member of that movement for an awfully long time. I'm going to stay hard at it. We'll see what happens in 2024. We need to make sure we have a candidate who believes in the things that President Trump did these past 4 years, who's our nominee in 2024.
Appreciate that. And by the way, the Biden administration, they're trying to undo, they're undoing a lot of the things, a lot of your initiatives. What concerns you the most that they're undoing right now?
So it begins with this. They're undoing the central thesis of what we tried to do, what President Trump and I tried to do around the world, which was to make sure everybody understood that we were going to take care of America first, right? Our central obligation, our duty is to the American people, and that foreign policy mattered. It delivered us good outcomes in the Middle East. In the Abraham Accords, it delivered us good outcomes where we put real pressure on the Iranian regime. And for the first time in 40 years, the United States punched back against the Chinese Communist Party that was stealing jobs here at home. If I were to say that the three things that I'm worried most about, it would be those three. But in the end, we don't need leaders that are out on an apology tour on behalf of America. We need people who understand that taking care of America first is good for the world.
If Donald Trump gets back into power, if you should come back into power, one thing that even your supporters point out, the deep state very much intact. May even have grown stronger over the past couple of years. Donald Trump once joked that the State Department should be called the Deep State Department. Are you frustrated that you weren't able to drain the swamp?
You know, this has been a problem for a long time where people who are left of center and further left have had positions of power, and they just simply have refused to do what it is that the President of the United States asked them to do. I certainly saw some of that at the State Department. I saw some great people too, right? There were some people who were completely on board trying to do the things we needed them to do. But anytime anyone doesn't engage in activity that is consistent with the duly elected President of the United States, that's unacceptable. We all had more work to do when we left. I think every cabinet member who served in the Trump administration would say that. I certainly felt that way at the State Department. I think we made progress, but there's always more work to do.
Who do you think is actually running the government right now? It does not appear that Joe Biden is in charge. He seems to be a figurehead at best. Who's actually controlling the levers of power?
So I don't have any more insights than any of your viewers have, but I've watched President Biden act in ways that have tried to undermine things that we did. The example that comes to mind from just today, some video that I saw at our southern border. These policies that I worked very hard on, this Remain in Mexico policy was something that I put enormous pressure on the Mexican government to accept so that we didn't have people coming over here and staying here in America when they weren't legally here. Those are the kind of policies that I can't imagine President Biden would accept, and I hope that he'll direct his team to go engage along our southern border to make sure that we only let people in here who are legally authorized to be here and protect American sovereignty in the way that American workers need them to do all across this country and at every port of entry that we have.
Any sense of the motivation? I never really understood that. For a long time, border security was like a bipartisan issue. We've got tape of then Senator Obama calling for a border fence. I mean, and now it's different. You know, I hear the theory, well, these people who come in will ultimately vote Democrat somehow. I don't know how they know that, but that's kind of, I've heard that theory. Why do you think they're so intent on loosening the restrictions?
I've heard that theory too. I've also heard theories that there are folks in business who want to have this inexpensive labor that comes in. Frankly, from my perspective, that's one of the great risks we have from uncontrolled borders, right? Is that we'll have people undermining hardworking Americans who came here in a way that was lawful, that was legal. I can't account for why that is. It may be the case, too, that a little of this is just simply to undo what President Trump did at every turn. So there may be a little bit of, well, they did it, so it must be bad. Your point is well taken. This used to be bipartisan. Securing America's borders and American sovereignty ought to be a bipartisan issue. I hope that returns. It doesn't. And there's no indication that this administration is going to do that.
You're one of the few Americans alive who's ever met Kim Jong-un. We have a photograph from one of those visits. What was he like? And what was that experience like, being there with him and the conversations? Just what can you share?
Well, you're right. I think I've now spent more time with Chairman Kim than just about any other American. I think Dennis Rodman may have had more time with him than I did at one point. But it was a very clear mission that President Trump gave me. I went there first when I was a CIA director on a mission that we hadn't disclosed when it took place. I found him to be someone that was serious about trying to defend the things that he was trying to do. They were antithetical to our understanding of how he ought to have treated his people. But we had a real mission. It was to denuclearize the North Koreans by eliminating the capacity for them to continue to build nuclear weapons. We didn't get all the way there. We stopped a lot of the testing. There were no long-range tests, no nuclear tests while we were in power. I hope that the next administration will continue to be as strong with respect to North Korea as we were. And I hope that Chairman Kim one day will conclude that having those nuclear weapons isn't in his best interest. We didn't think it was so. We promised the North Korean that we could make life better for the North Korean people. We were committed to that as well.
You know, I mentioned your Army service, West Point. I think you graduated at close to the top or the very top of your class, went on to Harvard Law School. You succeed at just about everything you try, which is pretty wild. I am genuinely curious. Is it natural ability? Is it hard work? Is it, are you a workaholic? Is there a key? Is there a secret to your success?
You know, my mother would tell you if she was alive and sitting here tonight, she'd say Mike's a grinder. Mike's willing to work when others sometimes aren't. He's willing to fight through problems. He's willing to help build teams to succeed. I hope some of those things are right. My mom loved me. Maybe she was a little bit biased, but I've never shrunk away from a good fight, and I'm never going to.
Let me ask you this. If Donald Trump is a candidate in 2024, you'd have to start running in 2023. Would you say right now that you won't be a candidate? I just can't see you running against Donald Trump. You seem so close and, you know, you got along very well. But would you make that promise?
You know, I must say, I just haven't given much thought to what's going to happen even beyond 2022. I enjoyed working with Donald Trump. He gave me the opportunity to have enormous impact around the world and make life more secure and America's freedoms more secure. That was something that I never dreamed I'd have the chance to do. It was an incredible honor to do that. We were very successful. I hope that the next 4 years don't undo all of the good work that we did. And we'll all see what happens in 2023 and 2024.
All right. Mike Pompeo, former Secretary of State, and a lot of other things. Thank you, sir, very much.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Have a good evening.
All right, you too.
Hey, I'm Rob Finnerty. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please join the conversation in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, too. Hit the bell icon to be alerted to breaking news. And remember, there's a whole lot more on Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news network. Newsmax TV, we're real news for real people.